Barclay. I am the Regional Director for Europe for MoEngage, and thank you for joining us for this live webinar. Online, as you can see, we've got Evgeny Kruglov. Eugene is the co-founder for AppFollow, and obviously Eugene and myself will be talking to you today about app retention strategies in 2020. I would also say that we will be sharing this content with you directly afterwards, so don't spend too much time furiously scribbling notes unless you need to, and try and listen to the content. I'm pretty sure as we go through, there'll be something for each of you to take away, but we also have at the end a little actionable quiz you can take away to see if you are ready with your app retention strategies for 2020. So handing it over to Eugene, if Eugene would like to kick off.
Thank you very much, Mike. Hello, everyone. Nice to have you all here. So once again, my name is Evgeny Kruglov. I'm co-founder in AppFollow. A very short introduction of myself. So I'm in mobile since 2003, almost 20 years already, being entrepreneurs since 2008. And we co-founded AppFollow in 2015 together with Anatoly and Pavel. And I'm responsible actually for sales and customer support, but I'm also very much engaged into the product line. What I want to do today here is to share some of the things that we discovered within our service and helping our customers manage applications in the app stores. In a nutshell, AppFollow is a combination of App Store analytics and reputation management tool. We provide a lot of data for our customers that allows them to get some actionable insights on how they can manage applications. And one of these insights are coming regarding the ratings and reviews, which we find very, very much important in today's life for product management teams, the ones who are actually managing applications on a daily basis. And I want to start with something that probably everyone is very much familiar with. This is average rating, and everyone, I'm pretty sure, knows that average rating is something that influences your conversion rates in installs. So when someone searches for an application, they're looking for something that has a high rating, and about when we speak high rating, we speak something like 4, 4.5, or 5 stars. 5 stars is a kind of an exception on the app stores these days, but having something between 4 and 4.5 is something good. And I'm pretty much convinced that if you are searching for an application and you see rating with 1, 2, or 3 stars, then most likely you will avoid installing this application on your phone. So, but is there only average rating that you should look for? This was currently a well-known metrics, so everyone knows the average rating, but are there any other ratings on the market? And the answer is yes, they are. So just to give you some perspective, be sure that if your application or game has a good rating, on, for example, on average, the games that are featured in both an App Store and Google Play are having 4.5. That's a good reason for you to work on the rating. So you can be featured by both of the app stores. Again, just to prove my words, you can see that in all charts, free chart, gross, and pay chart, the average rating is pretty high. And only with the pay chart, you can see some of the exceptions that are fall behind the trend line. So once again, working on the rating and getting a high average rating is very important. But what is also over there? What is something that usually developers are not paying that much of attention, but we think they should do? And this is something that we call so we have a different name for this. So sorry, I was a bit forwarding. So at least 4 stars, as I said, 4.5 is a perfection. So this is something we all know, and this is what is usually we have in mind. But again, so we're speaking about overall ratings, but you shouldn't forget that both App Store and Google Play, they have also local ratings or country ratings. And especially this is very much important for App Store applications. And your rating in a different country can be, your rating in a specific country can be different from your average rating. here in this example, you can see that on the average, the application has a 4.5 rating, but if you're speaking about Russia and Japan, the average rating is below that figure. And the overall picture actually doesn't feel that good enough. But there's also one other kind of rating, and this is a reviews rating, and this is the one really want you to pay attention for. So the thing is that you calculate the rating, the average rating which is calculated, it only takes into account the all ratings that are provided by your users. But if you subtract ratings without the reviews, and you will calculate the ratings for the reviews only, you can see that the picture actually might be very much different from what you see in the App Store. In this very example, you can see the Hearthstone game having average rating pretty low, 3.6, or let's say 3.7. But if we see their rating by reviews, it's even lower. It's 2.8. It's extremely low rating, meaning that those users who are actually leaving reviews for this application are very much disappointed with the game. Another example, Angry Birds Rio. The average rating is okay, but the rating rating calculated for the reviews is actually quite good, 4.5, meaning that surprisingly, players are very happy, and they're happy to share their experience with the reviews in the app stores. And last but not least, the survival arena, we can see that in this case, everything is more or less equal. So the ones who are giving the rating in the Google Play and the ones who are leaving the rating in the reviews are pretty much have the same feeling about the game. So the average rating, again, is something that you see on scale. This is something that a game can collect for a long time. And you can see in this example that this game has a very good rating both in App Store and Google Play. Both of them are higher than 4.5. But if we see on the daily difference, we can see that in this particular moment, in this particular day, the users are pretty much disappointed with what's happened with the game. Probably it was some kind of a release or a bug or anything else, like they changed the balance of the game. And nowadays, we see that both players on App Store and Google Play are very much unhappy with the game, and they're sharing their unhappiness with the developers. There's one more rating which I would like to point out, and again, we feel it's very important for you to review it, and this is featured reviews rating. So again, if we think of all the reviews that are left for your application, the featured reviews are the most important ones, because they are the ones which users will look when they visit your app page in the App Store. And again, in this example with the War Robots, you can see that the average rating is okay, a bit higher than the average rating by reviews. Again, on a daily basis, that can be a bit different. But if we add average rating by featured reviews, you can see that these reviews are written by very much disappointed users. So paying attention to these reviews is actually much more important than the average rating, because their influence on your conversion rate and install is even higher than the one that the average rating has. This is how the app pages are looking both on App Store and Google Play. And you can see that this negative reviews are something that is very visible and something that everyone will see when they make a decision whether to install your application or game or not. How this ends and how you can improve this when working with reviews and how you can optimize on that. So we believe that user acquisition and retention are very much the same things for the customer support, meaning that you, whether you're a big developer or small developer, you have to pay attention to your customers, and you have to follow up on all that customers are writing to you in the app stores. By conducting this dialogue and by talking to your users, you can actually help improve all of your metrics, including your average rating, including your reviews rating, and of course, including your featured reviews rating, and thus get more customers, more happy customers, users, and also you can improve your conversion rate, and so thus getting more new users at all overall. The statistics is as follows. Up to 25 of all reviews, users are ready to change their rating reviews if they're asked for that. So if you reply to a review, both in App Store and Google Play, every fourth of your user is ready to change this rating for better or for worse. And of course, it depends on you. What will the end decision be? We can see that from statistics that Google published on May 2019, almost 10,000 reviews are changed on a daily basis, and users update their ratings. And the ratings usually updates for better, 0.7 stars on average, meaning that you actually can significantly improve your rating if something goes not that well with your application. Here's some statistics from our service. You can see here some data collected for the specific application. Most of the reviews were left without any replies, and the average rating change is barely visible. But those reviews that were with replies, the average rating change was almost 1 star. And again, this is something you can work on and something you can influence on, and this can be done pretty easily on your end. You just have to focus on what is important to your customers. How to do that is actually to try to understand what are the issues that your customers are facing. Within our tool, you can get some sentiment breakdown, and the usual case is there's a lot of positive reviews, and always there's a lot of negative reviews. Some of them are mixed, when users are expressing both feelings, like positive and negative ones, and some of them are neutral. And these ones are usually minor. If you dive into these issues and you look into the topics, you can understand what actually users are bothered about and what they like and what they don't like, especially what they don't like. This can be, again, understood in the way of analyzing what they're writing and getting some feeling of what they're mostly focusing on when analyzing these reviews and finding these issues through the word clouds. So you can feel what is their main intention and what they're most happy about and what they're most disappointed about. Statistics shows that the most of the reviews are left on Google Play compared to the App Store. You can see that sometimes it actually can be up to 10 times more. With some exceptions, like for the pub game, it's only 1.3. So both App Store and Google Play users are very much active and are leaving a lot of feedback for the games. But on usual case, Google Play players are much more active, and that actually gives us another thing to consider. That So one more thing here is that, of course, it's an obvious thing. Reviews spike with each update. So as soon as you publish an app update, it usually triggers users to leave some kind of a feedback. If you announce that you fixed some of the bugs, the ones who experience this bug will be eager to review the application and see if it is really fixed. If there were some changes, new levels, I don't know, new features, new game balance, then again, be ready to get some feedback from your customers. The reviews that probably you must again focus on are the featured reviews. We already showed you the statistics that they are influencing user decisions, and it is very important for you to understand that if you left them unanswered, that will mean to your potential customers, future customers, that probably you don't care about your users or your players, and you're not paying any attention to what they are experiencing in the game, and if they're disappointed with something, you really don't care. So be sure that you're focusing on these reviews. You don't have to reply to all the reviews, but these ones should be replied as soon as you see them, and you should react as quick as possible. One interesting thing that we've found out is that the most disappointed people are the ones who are leaving you 2 stars. These people talk most of all, and they left the longest reviews, and that means that these guys are probably mostly disappointed. And if you look into these 2-star reviews, you probably will learn something that you can improve, because these guys, they left you like one step for improvement, and you should probably take it over. Also, of course, 3 stars reviews are also seem to be longer than usual, but if we look at the positive ones, these reviews are quite short, meaning that usually happy customers, that they share just the very basics of what they learned within the game or your application. But if you see a long review, be sure that you followed it up, because a long review means that a person took a lot of his time to leave this review in the App Store or Google Play, and he really meant what he wrote. This is something that like feels for him as a pain or as a problem. There's some sharing of what he liked or disliked, and if you talk to these customers of yours who are leaving you reviews like that, then you most likely be well heard, and you will give a good sign to everyone else that you are talking to your users. Again, for this particular, in this particular case, that will mean that again you will give a sign that you're eager to improve things, and at the end, users will be much more happy and will be eager to return to the game, and that means that your retention rate can be improved significantly. Another thing that happens in the app stores, and usually are not very much noticed by developers, is that there's the thing called updated reviews. You can nowadays see them in Google Play, but unfortunately still you don't have any vision of these reviews in the App Store console. So it's good to use some kind of a tool to track this type of reviews, because the thing is, users tend to change their opinion about your application. In this particular example, you can see here 19 changes. So there was 19 times when this particular user came to the App Store and reported something that he didn't like, something that was bothering him, and something that he felt very much frustrated. And his verdict, like stay away from this disgusting game, is definitely quite speaking and can be appealing to some of your potential users that are coming and reviewing the review section before installing the application. So be sure talking to the customers, especially those one who are leaving a lot of reviews for your application. Also, if you notice, then this user, when he started to report on the game, his first impression was actually quite positive. It was 4-star review, not a bad one. But then as time passed, and probably he didn't have any response from the developers, he became much more and more disappointed, and in the end ended up with 1-star review, and he was constantly updating it and trying to get developers listen to what was that he didn't like. An important thing to understand is that as I showed earlier, the average rating changes with every developer's reply. So here you can see the more you reply to reviews, like the higher the scale of your reviews management, the better your ratings on the average gets. And you can definitely improve it by working with these reviews, managing them reviews, but also reply time is very much important. And getting back to the slide where I showed you that the most of the reviews are on Google Play, this is especially important for Google Play because there the publish time is less than 20 minutes on average, meaning that from the moment that you get review from your user, you reply to this review, and when this reply is published on Google Play, it usually takes the system for up to 20 minutes for that, meaning that you can actually handle a real-time, almost a real-time dialogue with your user, and you can talk to him and follow up and give him some feedback on what he wrote, and that can actually be something that can improve your overall statistics and again improve your application metrics. So focus on featured reviews because everyone sees them. Focus on negative reviews because they're the ones that can improve your rating, and they're the ones that can help you bring your customers back. And as well focus on long and updated reviews, because these are your loyal players. These are the ones who are staying with your game for a long time and are eager to hear from you. So be sure to reply to these guys and talk to them in an appropriate manner. So as a resume, the key points, the key takeouts from what we've learned. Ratings and reviews are very important. Pretty much we knew about that, but what we didn't know is that how they influence on your conversion rate and retention, and they also can provide you some valuable feedback. Be sure that you are working with crucial reviews, the ones I've listed before, featured, negative, and long ones, and be sure that you understand your ratings. Not only your average rating should be high, ideally 4.5 stars, but you also should think of other ratings that are reflecting the state of your application. The daily changes, the reviews ratings, and the featured reviews ratings. These are the ones indicators that you should follow on and be sure that you understand how your users are feeling about your application or your game. And in the end, you will be rewarded with featuring and loyal players. Featuring will come from the app stores, and loyal players will be coming from these review sections and conversion rate, because they'll be happy to talk, to play to your game or use your application if you're talking to them and if you're giving them their feedback. Tools that can help you manage that. So they're default ones, App Store Connect and Google Play Console. Unfortunately, they're not that flexible and convenient to work with reviews on scale. So I would very much recommend you to think of any kind of alternative here. For ratings, you can use definitely App Annie. Also, there's AppBot, AppFigures, and AppFollow. There are not that many tools that work with the featured reviews. So far, we consider as the only tool that helps focus you on these types of reviews. You can use semantic analysis in AppBot and as well in AppFollow. And again, if you're using any kind of a help integration, a help desk system, then you can easily integrate them, and then you can streamline your support process. Also, there will be some links that can help you understand in more detail what's going on with the applications and how things are managed by the app stores, like how to get featured, few insights on how to improve your average rating. A few of them I already shared, you can follow and read these links after we share this presentation with you. That's it. Thank you very much. I hope that was insightful enough. And I'm passing the mic to Mike.
Thank you very much, Evgeny. That was really interesting. We certainly got a lot of data there about how reviews can work and how important they are. And I think we're all very much cognizant these days about the importance of customer feedback. So, social proof has become the big thing, has it not? So I think we all recognize that now.
Absolutely.
Okay,
yes.
so
yes.
we're going to move on now to be more focused on retention strategies. First is a quick introduction to MoEngage. So when I talk to people in the pub about, what do you do for this guy with this company MoEngage, I speak to them about the fact that these days, just about every brand is really thinking about who is my customer. So you could be, for example, a insurance company, and you might have customers who are new drivers. Then you might have mature drivers who have not had an accident for 10 years. Then you might also have people who've got multiple policies, and you'll be mapping out to understand, how do I communicate differently with these people to ensure that I'm getting maximum engagement from them. So that's what we're about. We're about helping you do that. So we use a small piece of software which sits in the app called an SDK, and that actually gives us all of the in-app behaviors. We then put another little piece of software that sits in a web browser, which then gives you all the browser behavior as well. So whatever you are using as your tag tool, whether that's Google Tag Manager, whether it's a segment, we can just mirror that within the MoEngage, which again is good because it means there's less heavy lifting for you getting this all set up. There's no new permissions. You're just getting all of the data unified under one place. And we're also able to pick up in-store data. So one of our clients, for example, Deutsche Telekom, has thousands of people going to stores every day with their mobile saying, can I get an upgrade? Or does this phone do 5G or whatever it might be, okay? And in order for Deutsche Telekom to answer that question effectively, then you take the mobile number, therefore they can collect that data, and the next time the person goes into their app, we can say, you're eligible for upgrade in 2 months' time, here's your options of new phones, this one does 5G, etc., etc. We then obviously, as we start to collect that data, can then also start looking at the consumer's trends. I've skipped on there, consumer trends, so identify opportunities within those trends. So we see that there are trends of people asking about upgrades, or asking about 5G, or asking about data plans, or asking about changes through GDPR. We can also segment, so we can say, okay, give me a segment of all of the 18 to 20-year-old drivers who have browsed insurance in general on the web browser and have downloaded the app and have not yet bought a policy, and then start a automated AI-driven campaign to get those people to engage with you. And then, of course, we've got to use all channels. For example, we recognize that a lot of marketers say that SMS is an outdated channel. Now, on my phone, I think I'll never have more than 2 or 3 unread SMSs. I've probably got 1,000 unread emails in my personal email account, and goodness knows how many more notifications that I've not actually read. So using all channels at the right time with the right message is also part of what we help you to do. So let's start talking about retention itself. So one sort of sad but true fact is that in the last sort of 5 years, since 2014 at the peak, there's been a steady decline. Now, obviously, with all of these lines, you see a trend line which goes up and down, but you can see that there's been about an 18% decrease in retention over the last 5 years. And of course, the cost of acquisition for many people has gone up during that time frame. So when you've sort of, you build your app, you spend your money on your UA, you've got your staff ready to go, and you're, getting people to download your app at, X number of dollars per download. What you really want to do is to address this trend of actually the retention rates going down, because clearly that's going to be a big financial impact for you, and it also stops you being able to serve the customer. What's also true, though, is a relatively small change in your customer loyalty, so the people retain, has a massive impact on profits. Now, let's just put that in some kind of context. If you think about it, if you have 1,000 downloads on day 1, and if by day 30 you've only retained 10 or 12 of those downloads, then you have to divide your costs of all of what you've done against those 10 or 12. So clearly, it might have cost you, I don't know, £4 a download so far. And then when you get down to the end in day 30, that's turned into £20 a download. And depending on what you sell and everything else, it'll be a long time to see a return. So if it's just a small number of those people staying with you, not having to be retargeted, not having to be paid for again, gives you a big change in profit. So retention is really important. I'm not telling you anything you don't know, I'm just putting it in some context. So what do you need to do? There are 3 main parts of the strategy. First thing is to find out, why are they installing your app? Not globally what's going on about retention, but your app itself. You then need to plug those leaks, so work out how to reduce the amount of wastage as far as humanly possible. And then you want to build an engagement strategy. So I found the customer, they're keeping with the app, so how do I make sure they become high lifetime value, regular users of the app, so the app becomes sticky and it becomes part of their daily usage. So let's talk about what that looks like. Why do people uninstall your app? There's a whole range of reasons. Poor engagement can be one. So, giving people the wrong information, giving them the wrong kind of experience when they first download is a classic reason why you have a situation whereby your day 1 to day 3 retention is so poor. Then it can be the onboarding experience, and we've got I've got a couple of really good stories I can tell you about that. The in-app experience itself, so how good is it once I'm in the app? How well do I navigate the app? Now, Eugene was talking a lot about games, but obviously we do a lot of things like e-commerce. We do things like Self-service apps, so things like the app that you use for your mobile phone, like your My Vodafone or your My T-Mobile, etc. So the in-app experience is really important. And of course, what's absolutely essential are the core capabilities. You know, if your app is about buying wine, the ability to buy wine easily has got to be there. So plug in the leaks. Thinking about the onboarding strategy. So I'll give you a couple of examples right here. So we work with, you know, things like fintech, we work with travel, we work with video streaming, we work with all sorts. We had a fintech company. And if you imagine you have somehow seen an ad or whatever, you've gone to the App Store, you've downloaded this fintech app, and the first thing, you know, and naturally we recognize that these are regulated businesses, they're asking you questions like, give me your addresses for the last 3 years. Now give me your payment details. Now tell me what your bank account is. Now tell me how long you work for your employer. Now tell me what your wife's name is. Now give me your inside leg measurement. And all of this before you've seen a single piece of benefit from the app. That's going to drive, you know, people to uninstall, not to complete the set, not to complete the onboarding strategy. So we had one fintech company that simply by the first thing that you got was a in-app message and a push notification where it said, click here for a short video. And the short video just reintroduced why it was going to be really useful to give them this data or what this data was for, dramatically increases their retention rate. Or you might have something like a video streaming company. So they know that if you watch more than 2 or 3 hours of the video, then you're more likely to keep the app. Mainly work on a sort of freemium basis, so you get so much free. So the first thing they ask you for is your payment details and ask you for your credit card. The chances are you're going to think, hey, am I going to get counted this in time? If what they do is use data like watching what you've been browsing before you actually download the app, so capturing that through the web behavior, use any other data they've got to kind of work out what kind of programs you like, and they present you with, hey, look, here's three series that you might want to watch. Once you watch a couple of hours, then they remind you that you need to put your payment details in. You're far more likely to see a higher number of people retaining the app. So onboarding is really important, and it varies by who you are. We also have got some other good examples of, you know, successful user retention. So Tokopedia, if you think about Amazon, Tokopedia is basically Indonesia's Amazon. It's a marketplace, and they try to get their users to set up marketplace accounts they can buy and sell. Now, on Indonesia, there was a lot of barrier to using e-commerce because they used to be able to go to the corner store and do certain things, but what they were used to was paying for things like their utility bills or their mobile bills using either an online process or going to a bank and doing it through a cash machine. So one of the things Tokopedia did was to change that they took online payments. And as you can see, 75 million active users is a big number. When you've got a 6% churn rate, that is an issue. Halving it and nearly doubling the retention has transformed Tokopedia's business. Now, here's how this is the way that they did it. And I mentioned before that people plot out how they want to approach customers. It's a relatively complicated slide, so I'm not going to go through it in huge detail, but it is about understanding when the person's registered, what do you do next? If they're not registered, do you send another push notification? Do you send them a Facebook ad? Do you do something else to get their attention? Once they have registered, how do you then get them to add something to the cart? What notification should you use? Should you be sending emails? Should you be sending anything else? How do you personalize the experience? Everything you can do to drive that first purchase and then to drive the second purchase. Because in Tokopedia's case, they know that when you've done 3 transactions, you're hooked. You'll keep using them. It's also worth pointing out, just as Eugene was saying, is that both the platforms work differently. So both iOS and Android have got different things in terms of your opt-in, the way that works, whether it's passive or active. They have different ways you can navigate through the app. They have different ways the software is built. So you need to be taking this into account in terms of what is the most appropriate way to take this person from new download to active user. And it will differ for you, it will differ by device, and it will differ by the different platforms. So for example, we have a service called push amplification, which very specifically works with Chinese devices, which tend to switch off part of the software to save battery, which means that the cloud can't actually send them the devices through the user GCM. So we send it through another method, which means that as soon as they do go back on, they get notification. That can increase the people getting notifications by 20–30%. We're doing nothing more than thinking about which device am I sending this to. The next thing to think about is your segmentation. You're able to get a lot of data. We talked about offline data, like people going in stores. We've got things like lifetime value. So you might, for example, recognize that your high lifetime value customers probably give you 80% of your profit, but it's only 20% of your base. And if you can start to understand what is that trigger point? Is it the third transaction? Is it when they buy a separate product? Is it when you get them to look at more than one section? Is it when they played a certain number of gaming hours that they're going to become a high lifetime value customer? You can then run a segment, look at all the people who have done 4 actions. We know 5 is important, and discount the 5th action, or personalize why that 5th action should happen. So that could be auto download the next episode of your favorite series, because once you've done 1, 2, 3, the 4th one's there, you send them, it's ready, they've watched the 4th hour, they're on their way to being high lifetime value. You can also get it wrong, it must be said. So we do have data on the opt-in number of notifications to send. We also do know that rich content makes a huge difference. So notifications that are personalized with rich content get between 20 and 40% more uplift, more opens, and drive up to 16–17% more retention. Equally speaking, you get it wrong. I mean, the first example there, sending somebody a discount after the sale is finished, not the best experience. You get carried away with emojis. We know that emojis really work, but then you get to the point where people can't read them. Or, for example, think about Black Friday. Think about the time when your site's the most busy, and the ridiculousness of sort of paying for a campaign or sending a campaign to people at a time when the site can't cope with the traffic. So think about the best time, the best way to actually notify your customers, and that will help you to divide your strategy. You also want to work out your own app's retention point, because it will differ. The cohort analysis, if you can do it, can help with this. It can help you understand what is the different ways people behave and what is that trigger point. We've got some examples here for you. So Slack knows that when you have passed this point where you sent more than 2,000 messages, 1, they're now a sticky app within your organization, and 2, you're more likely to buy the upgraded version. Netflix, I've just mentioned already, and other streaming sessions know that you need to, if you watch 2 or 3 episodes of any given series, you're into that series. Then get you to auto download and watch the 3rd and the 4th, then it becomes sticky. Facebook have got their reasons, Zing have got their reasons. But the key point behind this is that the retention point will be different. It isn't necessarily just monetary. Quite often it's action-based, quite often it's behavioral based. So do that retention, work out what is going to make people retain your app. Evgeny's covered this in quite some depth in terms of the value of social proof and the value of understanding what your customers think. But just simple things like setting up a campaign that makes it really easy, so you just click the smiley face, or setting up a campaign whereby if they give you 4 stars and above, you just direct them straight to the App Store to actually give you a rating. If it's below 4 stars, then you can either thank them for the feedback or give them a short 2 or 3 question questionnaire which says why they might be unhappy. Again, the key here: ask for feedback, action the feedback, make it easy to give the feedback. And then, of course, it's really important that you build a really effective engagement strategy based around your app. We spoke already that you need to work out what your retention point is, and that differs. We spoke already about how you need to what your app's purpose is. If the purpose is giving service, then it's about service. If the purpose is about selling wine, it's about how do you get people to buy the right wine. And the data that you collect, the way you segment it, and then the way you build campaigns will make sure that you can deliver what you promise, that you engage in users in the right way, that you're tracking and measuring their actions and recognizing that this guy responds to push notifications, this person prefers email, this person likes to looks at his app in the morning, these people like to get their notifications in the evening, these guys like to use the inbox, etc., etc. Use all channels, because even when you've got the preferred channel, you're never going to get the same person on the same channel all the time. So having different channels makes sense. Plus, they have different purposes. So email is great for long form content. Push notifications are great for giving broadcast messages. SMS is a good way you want to grab someone's attention and use a hyperlink back into the ad to get them to do something. And all of these things will push into that retention point. The fourth purchase, the fifth hour of the program watched, the last, the right spend, the additional policy added. These are things you need to be doing to engage and succeed. And we did say that we would give you something actionable from this. So one of the things we will be able to share with you, and I think my colleague will be able to share it now, but if not, we will share it in the stream later, is a app retention strategy checklist. And what that will allow you to do is use a yes/no answers and work out, firstly, the health of your app retention strategy. But then secondly, it gives you suggestions where every time you said no, what you can do to improve that element. So we'll allow you then to go away, something you can do this afternoon in your office and go, hey, how well am I doing against app retention for 2020? Okay, so we promised to give you plenty of time for questions. So I'd like to open that to questions now and see what we've got coming in.
While we're waiting for the questions, if I may, I want to add a few things to Mike, what you showed. I actually cannot stress more the things that you showed in your presentation. And one of the things that I myself feel very much important for every developer, I experienced it myself when I was developing applications in my previous company, is that this onboarding mechanism should be really very much user-friendly. I've seen so many apps that never explain you why they need geolocation, why they need access to push notifications, why they need access to any other things on your device, without even a glimpse of what they actually do to you. And this is so much frustrating, especially, well, I can understand this mistake in the early days of app development. Of course, things were like rough there, and there was a lot of things that people didn't know. But nowadays, it is very much important that you deliver the value of application from the very first screen. And the idea to show some kind of a video or to run the onboarding process or to give some piece of content before you actually ask your user to do something is actually a very good advice. And I, with both of my hands, I'm really upvoting this thing, because this really can influence on your day one retention and continuous retention, rolling retention, because that will probably mean that the user will return back to your application because he already knows the value of it, rather than compare to the onboarding where you just ask and ask and ask, give me this, give me that, without actually showing a single screen of what your application is actually doing, even though that you're considering that they saw it. But imagine things like that a person saw your advertisement, clicked on it, looked at your app page, clicked install, and then there was something that distracted him, or he was on a run and he decided that I will look into this application later, and that can be 2 hours later, 3 hours later, maybe next day. He won't remember what he saw on the app page. So it's very much important that you show, that you remind him why he made this decision to install it. So yes, this is definitely a very important thing. And another one, so you've mentioned this questionnaires that you can embed in your application, and you can ask things customers. So this is a very good thing to combine with the App Store's reviews, because from App Store's reviews you can get some ideas of what these questions might be. So what you really want to focus on your customers, and then you can implement this within your application, so the loyal users can talk directly to you and can elaborate on some topics that you came across while using your application. So that's definitely a way of combining these two data.
Now, one of the things I've seen with e-commerce companies is where they just collect what they need at the time, right? So you get in and you can start seeing those beautiful white shirts, and you start browsing white shirts, and you look at blue belts, and it pops up and says, "Hey, it looks like you like white shirts. Give us your email address, and we'll let you know when the next white shirt's coming in," right? And then as you go through, it says, "Hey, it looks like you're putting things in your basket. We're going to need to get your credit card details." And you start to know at the appropriate time, they're asking for the appropriate piece of data. So you're never scared off, but you're getting to experience the app, right?
Absolutely, yes, yeah. Yes. That's a really very good example of how things should be managed.
If a user decides to change the rating and its review, should the developer adjust answers to every change made?
Well, of course, it depends on there's no generic reply to that. A lot depends on what actually user writes to you. I would consider if you see a long review, I would consider you to be patient enough to get through all things that are listed there and try to touch them all if it's possible. But of course, there's few limitations here. Like Google Play has a 350 characters limitation on your reply, so it cannot be too long. In that case, a good way to handle this dialogue would be to reply to something most important or the most burning from what you can get from the user review, and then advise user to switch to any help desk system that you're using, and send them feedback through the email, or ask them to share their reviews through your email support. So in a good way, it will be an invitation to continue this dialogue outside of the App Store, because that will be much more flexible for you. And at the same time, your user will feel your attention. In App Store, on the contrary, you can be quite long. There's a 6,000 or 4,000 characters limit, so you can actually write quite a lot. And in that case, again, I would really very much recommend you to at least touch everything that user mentioned in this or that way. And again, if you feel that it is better to handle these things outside of the reviews section, then invite user to send them feedback on your support email, and then continue this dialogue through your help desk system.
Just a quick.
I hope I answered. Yes.
Yeah, just comment on that as well, that we've picked up in this very area. So the first question was about ratings and reviews. The rating is the number or the star, and the review is the written bit. So you do tend to find, as Eugene pointed out, that if you get a 5-star rating, you probably won't get very much text. They just say yes, brilliant, right? You get more of an answer on the lower ratings. And also the other point is, from GDPR perspective, etc., it's quite often a good idea, if someone's got a lot to say, to take it offline, because they'll start to share who they bought it from or who they spoke to, or that kind of thing. So it's good to take that offline from that perspective as well. And then once you've actually answered it, they will generally still go back online and give you a better review.
Yes, yeah, and about the rating. So if the rating is low, so if the user gave you 1, 2, or 3 stars, and you're eager to change it, I wouldn't recommend you to jump on this change like from very start. Like, I reply to you, please change your rating. Most likely this won't work. The way you can manage this is that you can first publish a reply to what he or she wrote to you, and wait if the user updates his review, because this is a way of communication in the App Store. The user updates his review and her review, and you update your reply, and that allows you to conduct the dialogue. If user updates it, and then you can see that he or she didn't change the rating, but you're sure that the problem is solved, then you can ask them kindly can you consider changing your rating to give us more stars or give us high rating? But it should be a very gentle reminder. And you shouldn't like force users anyhow. And be sure that you don't provide any incentives for that, because otherwise both App Store and Google Play will just block your application and you'll get in a lot of troubles. So this is highly prohibited to incentivize users to change their reviews for better.
And one other golden rule: never argue with them.
Also true, yeah. But this is good for every situation in life.
Exactly. Never argue with the customer. Even when they're wrong, they're right.
Mike, I have a question for you.
Yep.
How do you get the right balance of push notifications, as you might be bombarding a set of users and you might not be doing the same for another set of users? How do you find the right balance of push notifications?
Yeah, so there are some broad brushstrokes, right? And the right balance appears to be somewhere between 3 and 5 in the first three or 4 days. And then that comes from compiling loads of data. So the stat is probably almost meaningless anyway, because there's so many variables that go into it. The really important thing is to make sure that you are also collecting enough data to personalize those notifications. So at the beginning, they're going to be blanket. And I say at the beginning for the first 1 or 2. But as soon as you start to get data, make sure that you're using that to ensure that what you're sending the person is relevant. You know, people will forgive you for sending them too much relevant information, but then get really angry if you send them irrelevant information.
Okay, thanks, Mike. Eugene, we have one for you. If my rating is good, but the reviews are less, is that a bad thing?
This is not a good thing, definitely. And from our perspective, it means that some of the users didn't care much when leaving your reviews and ratings, sorry, and they were just maybe there was some kind of a first impression. They left a 4-star or 5-star review. This is generally good, so this is kind of a good indicator. Probably you don't have some big problems with your applications, but if your reviews rating is low, that means that there's some specific problems that some of the users are facing and they're reporting to you, and that's where you can take an action. Well, understanding this problem and learning from this feedback what's going wrong, that significantly can help you get users back to your application. Because if users reported something, they never get any feedback from you, they don't see that you've addressed this problem in your updates when they're reading the What's New section, then most likely they will just leave your application and they won't return. And if we're speaking about the retention is something that you need to trigger their return to the application, then there's a lot of ways that you can execute this trigger. One of them is reply to review in kindly tell that, yeah, we've addressed this problem and it is fixed in our new update, which is already in the App Store. Or you can ask for more details and propose to talk through email, or maybe just say thank you for your feedback and just be polite, because there's not that much action you can take, but you want to respect your users. But the case is the case when the average rating is high, but then there's still a lot of reviews with negative rating, means that there's a lot of users that are facing 1 or 2 problems, and these problems are similar, and you really have to dig into that.
And on both websites, you'll see a lot of details on the blogs that cover all these topics as well. So do feel free to visit our web properties as well to get more information. Thanks very much for joining. Thanks for giving us your time. I know it's precious. Hope you've got something useful and actionable, and we'll speak to you again later in the year. Thank you.
Thank you for inviting me here. Thank you for listening, and I hope we had a good time. Thank you very much, and have a good day.